100 leads, 20% of which booked phone calls. 92% of those booked calls actually showed up. We had 14 closes. I had a 40 to 50% close rate on the phone, 8K in new revenue, 1.8 return on ad spend, and about 8% of the leads generated actually converted to customers. So let's dive into the data and analytics of this campaign, and then we're gonna see how does that set us up for campaign version number 2, which the new creative I just got live today. So first, let's talk about what are prospects getting with this 6-week program. We like this 6-week program because it's a start date and an end date. Nobody wants to like join a gym because it just has this constant never ending like, you know, I'm locked into something I don't want to be locked into. So that 6-week program is just long enough, just short enough where they're going to get results and they feel like, okay, I can take that on, right? And so the pipeline is we generate the lead, we book a consultation call, we either close on the phone and then start to fulfill the actual product, or there's a bit of chasing and kind of following a process to get that prospect eventually to come in for their consultation. But I had 21 leads actually book a like dedicated bona fide sales call, meaning like, you know, we're 25 to 30 minutes talking about what they're looking for, seeing if this program could work for them, right? Of those 21, 12 actually booked directly through the Calendly link. And so that leaves about 9 people that didn't book. So that was me corresponding over text or email or just kind of calling them without booking a call. And so 92% of those showed. So 11 out of 12 actually showed for the call. Showed to close, I had 3 out of those 11, so about 25% there. I've still got 5 open deals, and then I've unqualified, 3 of those, right? So that's what you're looking at. It's like, how many total calls did you have? Bona fide sales calls, not like I just connected with somebody. Like, how many sales calls did you have? How many did you close? How many deals of those are still open, outstanding? And then how many did you unqualify or close lost? And that could be because of price. It could be, you know, it's not a good fit or whatever like that. But those are going to be your key metrics. Now, what I'm thinking about is how can we improve this campaign? Well, I could get more leads at the top, right? 100's pretty good, but if we could get more volume, then everything else is going to be pretty solid throughout the rest of if none of those other numbers change, that's still going to level up on the campaign, but we're gonna have to spend more money to get that, and it's not always the easiest lever to pull of like, hey, just get more leads. So let's dive into the percentages to see, hey, are there any areas that we could potentially improve here? Where's our weakest link? And if we can improve that weakest link, that bottleneck, then the rest of that system is going to improve because we just made a tweak that actually makes downstream positive impact. So I look at this and I say, okay, we've got 20% booking calls. That's probably not enough. If we could double that, if we could add 10% to that, we could have 40 of these people booking calls. That would be pretty solid. Now that's going to be a quality of lead variable that we're going to have to improve. That could be a follow-up thing. That could be, you know, just more relentless open availability in terms of when these leads can book calls on my calendar. But then when we look at what's your show rate, so how many of those calls that booked actually showed up, we're sitting at 92% right now. That could be an anomaly that's super high, but I'm not going to spend too much time trying to figure that out. That just goes into using Calendly to send these follow-up message each night before the call. I'll follow up with that person. Hey, Johnny Appleseed, just want to confirm that we're on for our call tomorrow. And then usually I'll get a response back from that. Now, the show to close rate, so of the people that actually booked that call, I'm seeing about 25% of those that actually showed, we close. I would say probably on the phone, you know, it's either right there on the phone or it's a quick follow-up after that. We're sitting anywhere from 40 to 50%, so I'm feeling pretty good about that. Of those calls booked, 57% booked on their own through Calendly. So let's just round that to 60%. So 6 out of 10 people, once they fill out the lead form, boom, we've got book your call, your consultation call right then and there. And 6 out of 10 filled it out, which is really solid, better than I actually assumed it would be. So that leaves about 43%, or pardon me, 40% of people that are I'm following up and kind of like texting and trying to book calls that way. So it's just a good reminder, like not everybody's going to book your Calendly. So what's your process in terms of getting people to actually book that so you can have that sales call, and you need to be doing those follow-ups and things like that. Then when we move into the new business revenue, I mean, we're, you know, $8,500 in new revenue in January. Now we fulfill this over 6 weeks, so it takes a little bit, you know, longer. So it's not always just new that way. But the nice thing about these 6-week programs is that you secure more money up front because you have a much more beefier, badass offering for the prospect, but then also you're able to recoup your ad costs, because frankly, it's pretty expensive to acquire a customer, anywhere from a couple $100 to, I've seen, like, I had some of my campaigns was like $350. So the game is how low can you get that customer acquisition cost, because that's going to be how much you're spending divided by the number of clients that you actually closed, right? So in this case, let me calculate our CAC here. So our ad cost was that, and then our total closes from this campaign was that. So this is actually, I just calculated our lowest customer acquisition cost is $200. So $200 on this campaign got us $600, and then that's not even looking at what that LTV is like in the future, right? So if these people, which we found 50 to 75% end up continuing, depending on the location, anywhere from 50 to 75% are going to continue on a membership. And assuming we do a good job by those people, assuming they like the community, those sorts of things, like the LTV math gets pretty exciting when you extrapolate that timeline into the horizon, right? So we're talking like a 15 to 18 return on our ad spend in that case. I don't look at it like that now. I'm just looking at like the actual ad spend in the moment. I'm being conservative. I'm assuming that person's not necessarily going to convert, but I do know it's rosier because, again, we're looking at that 50 to 75%. Anyway, so what we're going to do now is we take those learnings from this campaign and we just refresh the creative. So I've got some cool new creative. We're testing 2 different images using that meme format. The style that I like to use on advertisements is just like showing your product, keeping it raw, keeping it real, showing community. Not, think about when you see a super well-produced ad or something like that, super shiny, your brain just kind of says like ad skip, right? But if we can kind of just use some of the UGC that we have, tell the story and showing male, showing female, showing community, showing strength training, and then have some compelling, easy copy that's just going to sit there so they know what's the location that your gym is, if this is even close to them, so they know it's not like an online program. What's the desire, what's the thing that they want? And in this case, we're going to run with this idea of improve your mobility, get strong, and prevent injury with this 6-week muscle and mobility camp, right? So muscle and mobility, phonetically, it's kind of got a thing. It automatically broadcasts, what this is and what they would get. It's also unique in the sense of, we really try to own the mobility, right? It's such a huge piece of what we do, ingrained in everything in terms of our programming and stuff. And it's not yet sort of owned in the fitness space of like what people are trying to do. But I've seen a lot more prospects and talking to people on the phone and front desk when you're asking them questions like, hey, why are you interested in this? What do you want? Or even on these sales calls when you're hearing what their desires are, what they're looking for. And mobility is definitely a hot button issue that I'm seeing a lot. So, you never know what's going to hit with people. So get a good enough idea together and then test it and get it live and start running and gunning that way, because the market's going to tell you if it's a good idea or if it's not a good idea. I wish I had sort of a talking head version like what I'm doing right now, where it's, me in the gym talking to a customer focused, specific issue, something that they're dealing with, some pain point that they're having, talking about how Allegiant can kind of fill that void, fit that gap. But unfortunately didn't have that one right now. But honestly, we'll see. And I guess we'll see when we look back at the results in a month. We'll be able to compare it with this sales card here, the numbers that we just talked about at the top of this campaign. And then I'll be able to see, okay, compare and contrast A versus B and see what the difference is.